Hello, I'm ShieldWall100 and welcome to a rather unusual edition of the Batman Miniatures game 3rd edition game reports that I put up on my channel. Today I was all set up to play a game with two very different crews to the ones you're about to see featured, but at the last minute, just as I was about to start recording, I got a knock on the door, and lo and behold, my Two-Face crew and some other pits came through from Black Model's Black Friday sale from last year. It fought its way through the Brexit blockade to me, and yes, I thought I'd better drop everything, get them built and painted, and then put them through as a battle report as soon as I possibly could. So today we have them, the Two-Face crew, versus a familiar crew in the Batman crew. Thought I'd give them a try against a more standard deck that we've seen plenty of times before, so as we can get a real feel for how this new crew acts against some familiar faces. Okay, so without further ado, let's go and see who's in which crew. Starting with the Batman crew, you can see quite a few familiar faces. The Batman is the model from the Back to Gotham box. I'd really like him. He's very effective, and I've still got some rules to get the hang of for him. World's Greatest Detective for one, and all sorts of things. I've given him the upgraded Batsuit to give him that extra point of endurance he may well need. You can see Nightwing there at the back. He's a really solid model, can do a lot of damage, and is very fast. He's been given the Batman Incorporated upgrade from purchasable war gear, giving him bat armor Mark II and that little bit extra speed that he really probably doesn't need, but you never know how useful it'll be to have. Damian Wayne there in the center as a henchman. He's another solid choice, not particularly durable, but he's 10 years old, so there's your excuse. He's been given additional handcuffs for that all-important arrestability, as I found in previous game reports, and he's got the mobility to keep up with his dad. And the two police officers there, you can see it in the foreground, GCPD Detective, and I think that is GCPD Cop 2 there. Yes, both of course bringing arrest. Both have radios so they can be inspired by Batman from long distance, and GCPD Cop 2, the lady at the front, she also has a grapple gun. So lots of mobility in this small but hard-hitting Batman crew. This Two-Face crew incorporates at least part of all of the Two-Face associated box sets so far. Of course, Two-Face in the middle, I really wanted to use him. He is a very, very powerful leader to take, I think. He's got a lot of rules which help him both in combat and also in the running of his very unique crew, which is all very exciting to me. Put him on his big base because I have a soul and I really like to see the models look their best. You can see the two lovely ladies in the front and center, so to speak. They are Sugar and Spice, his two sidekicks, sorry. You're allowed to take both of them in this crew because of their duo rule, and they're a solid piece of kit themselves, teamwork with each other, and a whole array of special rules, and on top of that they both have pretty useful short-range shooting attacks as well, so hoping to get some good use out of them. They're not just ornamental pieces, these are actual quite solid ladies for their points cost. And as you can see, 4 henchmen altogether in their very distinct gangster style. And yes, the two guys at the back on the right of your screen are both armed with like long rifle weapons for long range hitting power, which they're very powerful guns themselves, yes. And the two guys on the left, closer to the camera, both have Thompson automatic weapons, so they are very capable of moving up the pitch and doing hideous damage at medium to short range. Okay, let's move on and see how deployment pans out. Okay, setup is complete and we're just about ready to move on into the first turn. I'll start with where the Batman crew models are first, and Batman himself is on top of the Star Store next to Damian Wayne as Robin, ready to swoop down and deal some punishment out. We've got the GCPD Cop 2 behind the police car there, and Nightwing bringing up the back. And finally, with the hidden rule, you'll see GCPD Detective has deployed all the way into Two-Face's deployment zone to take advantage of that. Before I continue, I'll just show you we drew chance encounter for the deployment zones, just to explain, sorry. There you go, it boils down into both sides having an 8-inch deployment zone, one on each end of the board basically. There's a bit of writing there, but that's basically what it boils down to. And the Two-Face crew, Two-Face himself in the middle, ready to inspire his troops into action. Sugar and Spice, the duo of sidekicks there, going to waltz up the pavement themselves. Got one of the henchmen with the bolt-action rifle up here. Sergio, I think, is his actual name, or more interestingly, Gangster 7. He's up here. He's got his weapon does not have an effective range, so he can basically snipe from up there as long as he's got the light sources to be able to do so. We've got the other guy with what's he got? He has a Winchester repeating rifle, that's it, just there. And he's on top of the Dino gas station, ready to use the better position there to his advantage. And finally, the last two henchmen, both with the Thompsons in the background there, both all within easy inspire range of Two-Face himself, ready to respond to any dangers with incredible force. Okay, let's move on. Let's start the actual game. Okay, turn ones take the lead and raise the plan phases are both complete. Both sides have a full hand of cards, but didn't actually get to play anything from those hands to start with. No objective cards being let out early doors. So without further ado, I rolled for the initiative, and Harvey Dent and Two-Face himself has initiative for the first turn, so they'll be going first. Audacity token placement is as follows, as you can see from the counters. Harvey Dent's got one, the two ladies have both got one, and this chap Sergio up here has one. On the Batman crew side, you can see the GCPD detective has one, Nightwing and Batman and Robin both have one. Used the Batman's world's greatest detective rule and put some effort in to make it a bit more potent, and that forced the Two-Face to have to activate Sergio up here first during his activation. Okay, so even if that's not what Two-Face wanted, this is the guy who has to go first because of Batman's influence on the board. It's an important rule which can be game changing, and I usually forget to mention that I either forget to mention I've done it, or I forget that I've got it all together. But right, let's get on with activating some models. Well, as prophesized, Gangster 7 or Sergio went first for the Two-Face crew, and he did not have a target with his bolt-action rifle due to the night vision rules. He doesn't have line of sight to anyone right now, so unfortunately for him, he had to content himself with moving to the front of the buildings and putting down a suspect marker, as you can see there. He had audacity, so he was easily able to do so. He was hoping, if he'd been able to go a little bit later in the turn, to maybe have picked up a target who'd moved into range of his natural line of sight, or into within 4 inches of a lamppost, but was not to be. Batman made sure of that. The Two-Face crew played two faces of the coin as an objective from their hand. I'll explain the good side, twisted side thing in just a moment, but for 2 victory points, then there's a good side. Have an even number of friendly suspects in play. So relatively easy to do that at this point with the crews so distant from each other, so we'll see how it pans out for them. There were 2 extra cards in the Two-Face deck. They're both related to Two-Face's signature coin, the good side and the twisted side, the scarred side. And basically at this point, the good side is showing up. You get to choose which side you start with, and that means that cards with good side, as you can see there in the yellow box, can be scored. There are a bunch of cards in the deck with twisted side which can't be used as objectives. They can be used as resources still, thank goodness, so you can cycle the deck. The twisted side card is somewhere in the objective deck waiting to be drawn. If you do and you play it, then it basically means that you can start scoring the twisted side cards. The good side cards tend to be around placing suspects and board control. The twisted side cards tend to be around about hitting people and doing damage to your opponent, so it's quite thematic that way. I do like it, and you just have to hope the card you get the ability to flip the cards over and start using your twisted side when it's time to start hitting people, basically. And likewise, when you're placing suspects, you hope that good side is up, but you get a little bit more control over it. And I could probably talk a lot more about it, but we'll just see how the game pans out. Okay, right, let's see what happens next. The Batman crew elected to pass. They have 3 of those, so why not? This is the best time to use your passes up in turn 1. You don't tend to use them subsequent turns that much. So yes, Two-Face elected to activate Spice, one of the sidekicks. She had audacity. She moved forward from here back next to where Sugar is, and she used her tactical action, because she had audacity, to put down the suspect marker, as you can see there. She then used her special action to activate her special action, menace, which is a quite handy, really handy rule if you think about it, because it basically means any model wishing to attack her for the remainder of this turn would need to spend an additional action to do so of their choice. So they'd either have to forego their movement or their special action, or one of, if they've got a freebie action, they have to give that up. Either way, actions aren't easy to come by in this game necessarily, not all the time, and it could be crucial and prevent her from getting attacked, so very useful. Okay, let's move on. The Batman crew elected to pass again. They want to tease out what the Two-Face crew is going to be doing, and so yes, Two-Face was forced to activate another one of his henchmen. This time, Gangster 1, the appropriately named Tommy, due to the fact he's got a Tommy gun, I suppose, was the next up. You can see he's got Innovating 3 there, which basically reduces his effort limit the next time he might want to do so to 0, effectively reduces it by 3 to 0. Two-Face has a rule whereby he's models with the gangster trait, such as all of his henchmen and he himself actually, can take Innovating to give themselves a bonus 2 inches movement per point of Innovating they take. So Tommy elected to max that out, and he has zipped forwards a massive 14 inches, as you can see. He didn't have audacity, but he was nonetheless inspired by Two-Face, if you recall from the beginning of the game, so that allowed him to put down this suspect marker here. So yes, let's see if the Batman crew are finally going to start actually moving. Batman crew finally felt obliged to actually start moving themselves, and so GCPD Cop 2 decided that she'd take the helm. She has a radio, as I explained earlier, so she is inspired by Batman, so even without audacity she was able to move forwards out of her deployment zone and put down a suspect marker, which of course, as you can see, duly became a snitch marker. We've seen this many times. 3 points. So I bring it into focus. There's the text, but basically what it means is if this snitch marker is still outside of 4 inches of all the Two-Face models by the end of the turn, then the Batman crew will score 3 points. It's a very hard card to stop at the very beginning of the game, and the Two-Face crew really doesn't have any models with any special movement abilities that they can really get around there. So, and it's too far away from either of the nearby sewer markers to affect either. So that looks like a good 3 points for the Batman crew. But we'll see at the end of the turn. Gangster 3, or otherwise known as Wallace, was up next for the Two-Face crew. He didn't have audacity, but he was in Inspire range from Two-Face. He moved up to the front of the Dino Gas to really maximise his field of view. He had to use, as you can see, just like the guy last activation for the Two-Face crew, he took 1 point of Innovating to give himself that bit of extra movement to get to the front. It's a really handy rule, that, although they may be kicking themselves about it later on as they actually start needing to use it for defense roles and attack roles and whatnot. But hey, movement is also key in this game. He put down a suspect marker, as you can see behind him, and played from the hand for the Two-Face crew closing argument. As you can see, it's another good side card for a mighty 3 points. There's a lot of text there. I'll just summarise it. You have to pick 2 suspect markers, including the one that was just played, so that one up there and this one down here. They both had to be within 4 inches of a piece of infrastructure, as in either lampposts or sewer markers. Don't have to be the same pieces, they could be different sewer markers or lampposts, that kind of thing, but they both have to be within 4 inches of a piece of the sewer, of a piece of the infrastructure. A die roll was made. It was a 4, so I've marked a 4. That's a counter down. That will count down each time a model moves after this. If both of those suspect markers are still in play at the end of the countdown, then the card will score for Two-Face, and like I said, 3 points. It's kind of like a snitch. It does involve a little bit more work because it's 2 suspect markers instead of just the 1, but it's still 3 points, and it's an easy early score really if you're not careful against them. So yes, we'll see how this pans out. Dick Grayson, very cockily activated next. He engaged his batclaw to give himself that much needed boost of speed, together with his own original very fast movement, his acrobatic ability and the extra mobility provided by the bat armor he's wearing. He was able to move a mighty 20 inches forwards if he needed to. He moved into contact with this chap here who just put down a suspect marker, used his tactical action to remove said suspect marker, and then if you remember he had audacity, so he still had his special action to go. Because he was in base contact with this gangster, he then activated combat flip to allow him to flip 3 inches backwards onto this car, which handily just takes him out of the range of this light source here. So that cunning trap that Two-Face laid for him has come to nothing really. He's back in the shadows, so to speak, so you need to come hunting him if you want to shoot at him. So that concludes Nightwing's turn and activation, so we're back to Two-Face now. It was Sugar to go next, and she had a fairly simple turn. First of all though, although you can see that she has moved, but while she was back in her deployment zone, she used her special ability to order this gangster here to replace his suspect marker. He's within range of the... she can do it on any model in range, but line of sight, sorry, not range. Any model in line of sight, and he is illuminated, so she could easily see him from all the way over here. So yes, his suspect marker is back down. It doesn't, however, reinstate the objective card, the closing argument card that was just denied by Nightwing. I forgot to mention that, so yes, that's why the countdown is gone off both of these. Those two suspect markers were no longer both in play, so it couldn't score. But yes, she then used her movement action to move up. So yes, she's got the suspect marker replay. There's a lot of Two-Face suspect markers in play at the moment. What are they planning? GCPD detective activated next, and he was back in the Two-Face deployment zone around the back of the Dino Gas. He used his fairly good movement to move up. He's still in cover behind the Dino Gas there. I'm not sure that's a great piece of cover to have when bullets are flying, but hey, it's only cardboard at the end of the day for the purposes of this game. So yes, he then he had audacity, if you recall. He used his tactical action to draw bead and use his gun, his automatic gun, to shoot at the gangster who's been at the centre of so many things so far this turn. He only got 2 dice after all said and done because he moved, but in so doing he did get both of them through as hits, both normally doing 1 blood 1 stun. The gangster is hardened, like all of the crew is, all the gangsters in the crew, sorry, are. That allowed him to trade one of the stun damage for a blood damage, which is a fairly unorthodox way to go round, but in this situation most of the Batman crew does stun damage, so in that case he figured it was worth taking the -1 permanent effort limit to just give him that little bit more stun damage left in the tank, so to speak, for future turns. It's unlikely that they'll be killing anyone, the Batman crew, so blood damage, might be good to ignore for now. I'm just using my phone to shine a light under the Dino Gas there so I can show you what just happened for Two-Face's activation. The last of the henchmen went. He is number 6. He's from the additional blister pack. He's got another Tommy gun, and yes, he innovated himself 3 times to get a mighty 14-inch movement as well, allowing him to bundle under into the shadow of the Dino Gas and put down a suspect marker just there. He is able to put it there. He is outside his deployment zone, thank goodness, and in so doing he put it right up against this detective here, enabling the if I just zoom out again, enabling the Two-Face crew to play to make this better for 2 victory points. It's another good side card if I just bring it in there. So yes, basically he's just placed a suspect marker within 4 inches of the GCPD detective, and this one over here is within 4 inches of Nightwing, so both those suspect markers coming into play at this point to enable them to score 2 victory points. So for the first actually confirmed scored card in the game goes to Two-Face, and we'll continue on. It's the Batman crew's turn to go. Young Damien was up next with audacity. He engaged his batclaw and used it to swoop from rooftop to rooftop, just like superheroes should. He was inspired by Batman, so starting next to him he would be, so he was able to use that freebie manipulate action to put down the suspect marker just here. He still had his basic tactical action left, so he used that to throw some batarangs? Batlings for him, Batlings, doesn't matter. At Sergio up here. Unfortunately, he lost the strength die for cover. From that angle, he couldn't see the entire model, and the other dice both came up 1s and 2s. So no damage done. Sergio managed to duck down behind the cover nice and neatly there. So that concludes Robin's turn. Two-Face was the last model able to go for his own crew, and he moved forwards. He had audacity, of course, and instead of opting to put down a suspect marker, because there's currently 5 on the board for his crew, and he needs an even number to score his objective card for the end of the turn, he opted instead to use his tactical action to shoot at Nightwing. He used one of his crew's 2 blood money tokens, which is a special one for his crew. He can use it. He has the gangster rule, and which made his Tommy gun not lose not lose 2 dice, only lost 1 die for the purposes of shooting, moving and shooting. Sorry. So yes, he still had a fair old whack of dice. Nightwit 3, in fact, including the strength die, which his Thompson only loses last, which is a big deal. Nightwing opted to use 3 efforts to avoid all 3 dice, thus taking 3 automatic stun damage instead of the potential lots of damage from those heavy duty caliber rounds from the Tommy gun. So yeah, I mean, it's not too bad. It's starting to whittle him down, and he's at short range with amongst a bunch of shooting models. So we'll see how that pans out. By doing so, the Two-Face crew played heads or heads as a resource rather than an objective. What that does is, if you see this resource card has different effects depending upon which side of the coin it's facing. If you recall, it's the good side, so we're looking at this bit here. When a friendly model performs a ranged attack, place a friendly suspect in contact with the target. So as you can see, there's a new Two-Face suspect just about in base contact with Nightwing there. So yes, that makes it 6 Two-Face suspects on the board. Let's finish off the turn. The Batman crew able to activate last this turn due to losing the initiative roll and their clever use of their passes. He decided he was going to spoil the party for Two-Face by using his batclaw to zip down from up on top of the roof down to the middle of the road. He has the detective trait, so it enabled him to reveal a suspect marker, which he did from 3 inches away rather than having to be in base contact. So yes, Spice's suspect marker is now no longer in play. That enabled, not only does that spoil the objective marker card, played at the very beginning of the turn for Two-Face, he won't be scoring that, but also enabled the Batman crew to play following the clues as an objective for themselves for 2 points. Reveal an enemy suspect marker at least 10 inches away from the board edges with a model with a detective trait. Well, Batman has the detective trait. He has some say he's the world's greatest detective, and so yes, that suspect marker was right in the middle of the board, so it certainly qualifies. So not only points denied, but points scored for the Batman crew. What a dick thing to do. Right, let's move to the recount phase and see what's what. Recount phase just completed, and as you can see, the snitch marker is well away from any Two-Face crew models, so snitch scores as we thought it would. And yes, there are 5 Two-Face suspect markers on the board in various positions, and so 2 faces of the coin does not score for Two-Face. It was a tricky one when Batman can literally sweep down anywhere pretty much and do things at his will, but it forced him into action. He's been forced into the middle of the board to do so maybe that will have impact in future turns. A bit of 1 point of stun damage came off each model which has suffered any, and yes, I don't think there are any cards to play from either side's hand in the 4th phase. So without further ado, let's move on to the second turn. Turn 2 and the raise the plan and take the lead phases are both complete. Neither of them saw any objective cards coming out for either crew, but the initiative roll this time came up with a black for Batman and blue for Two-Face as a victory for the Batman crew, so Batman will be forced to go first in this occasion, although I don't think they'll be complaining about it too much. In terms of audacity placement, the Batman crew, Batman's got 1, Nightwing, the GCPD detective, and of course Robin. It's just the female cop who didn't get it again. Patriarchy, huh? And in the Two-Face crew, of course Two-Face got 1, the 2 ladies equal rights here, and it was just a case of working out which henchman needed it more, and it was this guy up here for now. And so yes, there's the audacity placement. Let's get on. I get a feeling that this turn is going to be a little bit more brutal than the last one. Well, kicking things off, Batman decided he was going to swoop into action rather than letting the other people do his work for him, and he moved straight into contact with Two-Face. With his Master of Stealth rule, he was more than 6 inches away, so he could not be seen at the beginning, allowing this to become a sneak attack, and altogether should have done a lot more than he actually did. Batman even put 3 extra effort in to give himself a whole bucket of dice, and he, with his Master of Stealth rule, he gets +1 to hit on attack rolls as well when he is sneak attacking, so frankly he should really have got this one, but unfortunately for him he whiffed a lot of his dice. Even the strength die didn't come up for him at all, and Two-Face blocked a couple of the hits as well, so all said and done only 2 hits got through, each doing 2 stun damage to the mob boss, and so yeah, pretty much on as even almost in terms of that from Batman's own attack. But these things happen every now and again, and Two-Face isn't an easy mark by any means, so you know, it's not like he could have done, it's not much, you know, can't cry about it now. Okay, so that concludes Batman's turn. No cards are activated as a result of that, unfortunately, for the Batman crew, so we'll move on to the Two-Face crew now. Two-Face, realising that he was in a bit of a pickle, he's although he did shield himself from a big brunt of the damage that Batman was dishing out there, he is actually only 3 he only has 3 willpower points left before he goes unconscious himself, so he really did need to take action about that. He decided to activate first before his turn was rendered mute, because Nightwing is towering there quite nastily, and yes, he decided first of all he had audacity. He'd use his special one-off Attorney's Allegation special ability, which gives all henchmen within 8 inches bonus action this turn. So that would be this guy up here, and the guy hiding in the dino gas down there all have a bonus action this turn. So that's really useful as a one-off. He then decided he'd have a swing at Batman. Nothing came of that. The bat armor and Batman's own combat skills easily shrugged off all attempts at damage there. And then he skedaddled. He has the gangster's rule. He took he failed his bipolar coin toss, so he only had 2 points of effort he could use to he took Innovating 2 to make it up to Innovating 3 then, to put himself in the deployment zone of the Batman crew. So that concludes Two-Face's turn, and let's move on. GCPD Cop 2 activated for the Batman crew next. Had some urgent business to take care of because she was in base contact with the Audacity marker she placed last turn, if you recall, and so with her free bonus manipulate action, because due to her being inspired by Batman, she was able to reveal that suspect marker and turn it into valuable commodities. Seen that a lot of times before. Basically, there's the text. Basically, that loot counter next to her will be going on her character card. If she's still carrying it at the end of the game, then that'll be worth 3 victory points for the Batman crew. If she's killed or knocked out, then that loot counter will go back on the board, and anyone else can pick it up and run around with it. Okay, let's move on. Okay, we'll move over, and on Two-Face's side, Spice activated next. She first of all used her little Derringer gun to shoot Batman. 1 hit got through, didn't get the strength die, don't forget, but still 1 hit got through, and that's 2 blood damage to the Cape Crusader. Packs quite a punch, that small gun, and yes, she then used her movement to move up to where she is now, in contact with that police car, and she then finally, just for fun, used her menace ability again to make it so that anyone wanted to attack her needed to expend an additional action this turn. Okay, no cards played, so let's move on. Nightwing activated for the Batman crew, and not wanting to let Harvey Dent get away, he backtracked into his deployment zone and laid about him with his bow sticks. And yes, he did the trick. He put in 2 points of effort, as you can see there. Harvey Dent couldn't put any in because he was on Innovated 3, remember? And even so, it was only just enough. Even with the handy, Dent's not, like I said, he's not an easy mark. He's defense 4, and he was able to block a few hits going in as well. So yes, but nonetheless, 2 hits got through. He's doing 2 points of stun each, which is just enough. Well, he needed 3, but he got just enough hits, shall we say, to knock out the crime lord there. In doing so, that enables the Batman crew to play Batman's signature card, Back to Arkham, which is very simple. Just make the opponent's boss KO or remove it as a casualty for 3 points. Easy instant score there. So yes, a good turn so far for the Batman crew, I'd say. The other sidekick for Two-Face activated next. Sugar, sorry, was her name. She moved across from here to the next to the hostess truck. She then decided she'd use her special action to distract Batman. She has that rule. There's not a dice roll involved with it. It basically means if she's within 4 inches of Batman, which she is, she can make him lose 1 point of defense for the remainder of the turn. It puts his formidable defense of 5 down to a still strong but slightly more manageable defense of 4. So we'll see how that goes. And she then put down a suspect marker here, and that enabled her to play from the hand to make this better. We saw that last turn. It's simple. She just placed down a suspect marker within 4 inches of Batman, and there's already another suspect marker within 4 inches of another model on the Batman crew side. Down here with GCPD Detective, see the one under there? This is the same way it scored last turn, more or less, and so yes, for 2 victory points instantly in the bag for Two-Face there. Okay, let's see what happens next. Continuing their theme of activating people they want to activate before they get shot for the turn, the Bat crew activated GCPD Detective because he had audacity and he was looking down the barrel of a Thompson. So he first of all he unloaded his last clip onto the gangster he shot at last time, getting 3 hits, which would normally be 3 blood and 3 stun, which actually would have been enough to kill the gangster for 3 blood, but again the hardened rule came in and the gangster was able to manipulate the incoming damage so that he only took 2 blood and 4 stun instead, which is not enough to either knock him out nor kill him. He is 1 point of endurance away from dying, but that was the only other gun on the board, so I'm not actually sure it's possible for the Batman crew to get him without, short of kicking him while he's unconscious, but they'll probably arrest him instead, but never mind. So yeah, that was the hardened rule really coming into its own so far this game. Wow. After that, the cop moved, the GCPD detective, so I moved over around the back of the car here and picked up, revealed, should I say, the Two-Face suspect marker, and in so doing was able to play Comb Through Everything for 2 points, simple as reveal an enemy suspect marker. It gave him a couple of extra cards to pick from, but I won't go into that now. So, but 2 points is the important thing you need to remember. Okay, so good turn there. Let's carry on with Two-Face. We'll go to Sergio now. He activated for Two-Face, and he had audacity. He used that to engage his good aim ability. He then drew a bead on Damian Wayne, who just used 2 of his efforts to dodge away from the 2 dice that Sergio could bring to bear against him. Unfortunately, he had to, really. So it's a bit of a letdown, really, I suppose, for Sergio, but that's what acrobats can do. They can just take effort, but they can't do it forever. They eventually do run out of effort limit, so we'll see how that goes for him in the future. No cards played to tie into this turn, so let's carry on with the Batman crew. I forgot to say that Damian Wayne was the last model that could actually go for the Batman crew, so it was his turn next anyway. He didn't have to use his batclaw. He could just use his acrobatic ability and his ample movement to jump to this point here. He jumped across and then climbed up, is basically the way it went. He had enough movement just to get in base contact here, and then he used his paired katanas, well, which can only do stun damage when he's with his dad. Daddy doesn't approve of him slicing thugs up, and yes, so he laid about him with those. The gangsters in Two-Face's crew are not easy hits. They've got reasonable stats, and so whereas other henchmen in other crews may have actually gone down under this fusillade, this gangster managed to get away with only 4 stun damage, and he actually has willpower 5, so he's 1 stun damage off being knocked out, which would have made a whole lot of difference, let me tell you that. As it is, because he's not unconscious in some way or another, no cards were able to be played as objectives from the Batman crew's hand. So I believe that actually concludes the Batman crew's turn for activations purposes, so we'll just go to the Two-Face crew and finish them off now. Well, Gangster Wallace has just been, well, Gangster 3, aka Wallace, shall I say. We're not going to call him Gangster Wallace, he's not a children's book. He activated next. He has 2 actions, don't forget, because Two-Face, before running over here and getting KO'd, was able to use his Attorney's Allegation at the beginning of the turn, so he got a freebie action. He doesn't have Audacity, but gets 2 actions nonetheless. So first of all, he used a special action to engage Precise Aim, and then he shot at Batman. Now, Batman's distracted by Sugar from earlier, reducing his defense down to 4. The Precise Aim adds 2 to Gangster 3's, Wallace's attack dice roll, so without the strength die because of the Bat Army, 2 dice, each needing 2s to hit, and boy dilly did he do so. And so that is actually, looking at the damage done, that's 3 blood per hit. It's an elephant gun. No, it's a Winchester, so yeah. Yeah, that's 6 points of blood damage to Batman, who's already taken 2 earlier in the turn. If Batman wasn't wearing his upgraded Batsuit as purchased through War Gear, he'd be dead by now. But it's not looking good for the Caped Crusader because there's still thugs to go on the Two-Face side, and yeah, I mean, this is a set of this is a combination I didn't foresee when I built the crew, but it's certainly one that's very easy to fit together in a Two-Face crew, because it's you know, there's multiple things you can do to get these models in nearby enemies, etc, etc, and this guy's got a long rifle, so he can shoot just about anywhere on the board. Incidentally, Batman could easily be seen even with the Master of Stealth rule, because he's standing next to a lamppost, because I'm an idiot. So yeah, but he wanted to thump Two-Face, he wanted to get that potential card in. He could potentially have taken Two-Face out in 1 round of combat, but never mind, here's 2s are wherefores. A lot of damage to Batman, and we're going to carry on with Two-Face's turn now. Tommy, aka Gangster 1, activated for the Two-Face crew next, and yes, he opened up with his Tommy gun on Batman, who's still distracted, is reduced to defense 4. One of those dice came up as a 4, which is just enough to take out that last point of blood damage that Batman had. So did anyone order a dead bat? Because we got one right here. So yeah, that takes Batman out of the game. Doesn't tie into any cards scored for the Two-Face crew, but nonetheless, that's a big asset gone for the Batman crew. And yeah, so Nightwing becomes the boss of the Batman crew, and we'll move on from there. After that, the gangster then moved up next to Sugar, because she can then use him for her Protect Me trait. He can take hits for her, basically, which he may well do. Okay, so let's just finish off the turn now. And to round things off, Gangster 6 activated. Luigi is his name, if you must know. He's the other guy with the Tommy gun. He had 2 actions, much like all his companions, because he had the Attorney's Allegation granted to him at the beginning of the turn by Two-Face himself. First of all, before he did anything else, he played 2 faces of the coin from the Two-Face hand. By the end of the turn, there have to be an even number of friendly Two-Face suspects in play. They're playing it at the end this time, so as to make sure it scores. So, because there are 4 Two-Face suspect markers in play at the moment, he did not feel the need to run forward and put one down. So that's that then. He then moved out and used the second blood money token that the Two-Face crew has to give himself a less of a penalty for moving and shooting. So when he drew a bead on GCPD Detective, he had more dice and more prospects of doing damage. As you can see, that's 4 blood and 2 stun. There's actually only 1 hit got through. The strength die failed, unfortunately, but as a resource, Time Bomb was played for the Two-Face crew, which, if you see here, immediately after making a die roll, changed the results of one of the dice to match another die in the same roll, which basically meant that the 1 on the strength die became a 6, because that was what the one of the other attack dice rolls was. So that enabled that strength die roll not only to hit, but also to knock down, as you can see, the GCPD Detective there. So that's a powerful card. This Two-Face deck is looking pretty powerful, and I haven't even got into all its details yet. Okay, so recount phase turn 2 now complete. Two-Face crucially managed to recover from unconsciousness, so he is just knocked down over there with 1 point of willpower restored. In terms of cards that scored, the 2 faces of the coin definitely scored, as we just found out, because there are 4 suspect markers in play and they just need an even number, so that's a nice 2 point score there. Also coming out of the Two-Face crew's hand in the 4th phase, the Gamble, for 3 victory points, so nothing to be sniffed at all. You have 2 different friendly models inside the opponent's deployment zone, and they're in contact with 2 different scenery elements. Well, Two-Face is technically, he was unconscious, now he is conscious. Either way, he's there, and he's in contact with the bin and that plinthy thing there. And Spice is also in the deployment zone, and she's in contact with the police car. So she had a few options as to where she went to stand next to. So yes, that certainly scores. Another 3 points for Two-Face. No points scored in the end phase for the Batman crew, but they scored a few during the course of the turn. So it's I don't know, it's still all to play for as we enter turn 3. And yes, this game has plenty more carnage in it yet. Okay, as we go into turn 3, I can reveal that neither side played any objective cards in the 1st or 2nd phases. The initiative roll, however, was made, and it was an emphatic win there for the Batman crew once again, so they are going to be going first again this turn. It's time to say that who's got audacity, sorry. From the Batman crew side, it's everyone. Robin, GCPD Cop 2, and Nightwing, and the downed GCPD detective. On the Two-Face crew's side, it was a difficult decision. Opted not to give one to Two-Face because there's a good chance that he'll be unconscious again. And certainly would be a better target if he was given audacity. So yeah, they opted not to give one to Two-Face this time. However, the 2 ladies do have audacity, as does this gangster over here with the Tommy gun, and the guy with the Winchester. He'd see if he can put it to good use this turn. Okay, I believe that's it. It's time to start moving on to activations. Nightwing opted to go first. He was in the middle of the enemy crew, more or less, a little bit, and he had business to attend to, so he easily knocked out Harvey Dent to take him out of the running for the turn. Whilst models knocked down, they're much easier to just keep down than if you let them get up first. So yes, he did that, and by doing so he scored dirty job from the hand for 1 easy point. Just take an enemy model, KO or casualty. So yeah, nice easy point. He then used his basic movement to flip it and hop it and jump it in over there. Didn't even need to engage his batclaw. He has I think he's got a 14-inch movement even without having to engage it. So yes, he zipped over there, and he's out of sight, he's out of light sources as far as I can see, so should be harder for the Two-Face's crew's many guns to pick him off. Right, let's see how Two-Face deals with that. Gangster 6 had a quick activation for the Two-Face crew. He simply moved from over here to where he is now and put down a suspect marker. He had audacity, so he could do that. Okay, let's move on over to the Batman crew. Robin, Damian Wayne activated for the Batman crew next, and yes, he just decided he was going to finish off his target, and he did so. The gangster actually managed to block every single one of his attack, every single defense roll he passed. Unfortunately, it was not enough. Robin himself did a pretty good job of rolling his attack dice, so 2 hits got through, each doing 2 stun, which is enough to knock out the gangster. Robin then had his audacity token still, so he was able to get special action, which he used his handcuffs for, to arrest the unfortunate gangster on the rooftop, and in so doing played Get Them Off the Streets for 3 points from the Batman crew's hand. Easy enough. Arrest a model, we have seen it plenty of times in the past, so really good 3 points there for Damian Wayne. Okay, Sugar up next, and she had audacity, if you recall. First thing she did was to use her little small low caliber Derringer on the GCPD detective, who unfortunately was over here and got pretty horribly mauled by it. That gun, like I said, it's a hand cannon in disguise, and yes, he's dead. He's very dead. As a resource played from the hand, Kill Them Twice came out for the Two-Face crew. I forgot to mention that before. It was before she shot. Search your objective deck for a coin card, immediately play it, then shuffle the deck. What that means is the Two-Face crew has transitioned from using the good side of the coin to the twisted side, and that means they can start scoring their more damaging objective cards. They did that before she fired. They were very careful to do so, because after she did, they were expecting threatened to kill the cop, obviously. They played kill them twice again, from the hand as an objective this time. As you can see, twisted side there a little bit. So when a friendly model causes an enemy model become KO'd or removes any model as a casualty, that just happened, remove 2 friendly suspects within 4 inches of this model. Sorry, I'm just trying to get it back into focus. And then score this card. So yes, there were 2 suspects there and there, handily placed during the course of the turn, so those get picked up. It does say to score this at the end of the turn. You see that little clock dial in the middle there? That indicates when it is. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's a bit confusing, odd thing to put in, you know. I don't know if there's any subtlety in the rules that makes it a difference, but it's going to score anyway. So yeah, I'm going to put it on for now because they removed the suspect markers, so they can now score it. Let's get rid of that audacity as well. Right, having done so, the young lady then decided she would move over here to threaten Nightwing. Good fun. Okay, and that concludes her turn. Actually, no, she also used her distract ability on Nightwing. So, because she had audacity and it's a special action, so she did that. Okay, let's move on now. Okay, the Batman crew opted to pass, so it went over to the Two-Face crew once again to have a go. They decided to activate Wallace with the Winchester. That's how I remember his name, Wallace with the Winchester. And he stayed still, he had audacity, and he used his special action to activate precise aim on Nightwing over here. Nightwing is just within 12 inches, so he was able to be able to see him through the cloak of darkness. My bad, didn't realise that before the turn began, but you know, that's how things are sometimes. You can't always judge all the distances yourself. Nonetheless, Nightwing used his, because of the dangers of this gun that Wallace is packing, Nightwing used 3 effort to dodge 3 times, and that would have reduced the incoming dice pool to nothing and just evaded the shot altogether. However, the Two-Face crew as a resource played closing argument from their hand, which remove a friendly suspect marker within 4 inches of a friendly model performing a ranged attack to add 1 attack die to the attack. So yes, this suspect marker disappears, but it did give Wallace that 1 extra die back, which was the strength die. The high caliber rule means that the strength die is the last to go. So yes, on a 2+, that succeeded, and Nightwing took 3 blood damage, which is horrible. This Two-Face gang is not to be messed with. Didn't actually tie into any cards to score, but yes, they are turning the screws on this Batman crew in terms of damage. Continuing the turn, again the Bat crew decided to pass, and so Tommy was up next with his Tommy gun. He didn't have audacity, so he just consoled himself by moving across to be next to Sugar to continue his bodyguard duties. GCPD Cop 3 continued her end run down the side of the pitch, and she had audacity, if you recall, and as you can see, she's played down another snitch. That was a suspect marker, and there's the snitch card from the Batman crew's hand. 3 points in the bag if that succeeds, and there's really no way for the Two-Face crew to get to her now. So yes, that'll be a nice easy 3 points scored. She still, don't forget, holds the loot from before, so there's a lot of points tied up in this model, so no point taking unnecessary risks. Finally, from the Batman crew's hand, as a resource, haven't seen this one yet so far, I don't think. Wait for backup for 2 resource points, so quite costly, but basically one of their henchmen with the cop trait gets to come back because backup arrives from off the pitch, so to speak. And yes, so GCPD Detective has come back on there. He doesn't get to activate this round, but he does certainly get to activate in the last turn of the game, which will be coming up soon. So let's just finish off the Two-Face crew's models and get back to it. And rounding off the third turn's activations was Spice, as she moved back into the middle of the board and put down a suspect marker to face down Nightwing there, who may well just be escaping at the beginning of next turn, but who knows. And yes, she's back into teamwork distance of her colleague as well. So that concludes the third turn's activations. No cards scored, but we'll see how things pan out for the recount phase. Right, okay, end of turn 3 now, and Two-Face reawoke again. It must be bad for you being knocked out unconscious so many times, but hey. Yes, the snitch scored around here, as we obviously did think would happen, so 3 points for Batman. or Gryffindor or Batman. No cards scored from the Two-Face crew or from the hand of the Batman crew this in the Ascend phase, so a bit of stun damage came off each model that had it, applicable to it, and it's time now to move on to the last turn. So who can score that last desperate scramble for points? Right, the final turns take the lead and raise the plan phases are both done, and this time we do actually have a card played from the hand for the Batman crew. Die Hard came out, one of the generic cards. For 2 points they picked the GCPD cop, who's running around back here, to be the model who has to stay alive until the end of the turn. Well, the end of the game now, as it turns out. If she does, they score 2 points at the end. Nice. It's a really useful card to put in. If you've got some space from the generic crew, from the generic cards to put in, then that's a good one to pop in there. Okay, Audacity tokens. Again, everyone on the Batman crew has one. So Nightwing, Robin, the GCPD cop, as you just saw, and the newly respawned cop, detective at the back. Keep getting them mixed up. On the Two-Face crew side, Two-Face has got one again, as has this gangster here with the Tommy gun and both of the two sidekicks, the two ladies there. The initiative roll, interestingly, came up for the 3-1 in favour of Two-Face this time. So he finally got it at a time and it counted. So yes, without further ado, let's get into that last turn's activations. Well, with the first activation of the turn, Spice decided she was going to activate. I think she was last to go in the third turn. She's the first to go in the fourth, and she moved into contact with Nightwing. She has a whip which has reach, but I thought it would be more interesting to move her into contact. Right, she had an avalanche of attacks. She's basic attack 4, gives her 4 dice plus the strength die. She was within teamwork range of Sugar here, gave her an extra 2 dice, and she put 3 effort in. Nightwing, for his part, couldn't really afford to put any effort in himself because of the exertions he's had dodging bullets across the course of the game up till now. He only really had 2 points of willpower left anyway. So unfortunately so against it, 3, but he did manage to defend fairly well, but 3 hits did get through, which does 3 blood and 3 stun, which is sufficient to knock the psychic out in a whip display which is not for the crime fighter under the age of 18 to view. So unfortunately for Nightwing, he is unconscious, in which she played heads or heads from the hand, which is a twisted side card, remember. A friendly model inflicts at least 4 damage on an enemy model that has an audacity marker, and Nightwing, didn't even have a choice, he had to have an audacity marker, and so 6 damage, he's taken 4, so 2 points scored for the Two-Face crew. And then just to rub salt into the wound, for fun really, I don't think there's actually much to gain from it actually. She used her special action to do cruel there, which is it's like the arrest trait, except you can't block it by any methods as far as I'm aware. So she puts the horrible stilettoed heel in, shall we say, and yes, that removes Nightwing from the board. He's probably into that kind of stuff though, so it's okay. GCPD detective decided to act before Harvey Dent could get up again, and just moved up and attacked him unarmed, which was sufficient to do 3 stun damage. You can't defend yourself when you're knocked down, so yep, Harvey Dent is knocked out again. And with the audacity, I actually went to arrest Harvey Dent and pick him up off the board, and even play another Get Them Off the Streets card for 3 points. But then I noticed, to my idiocy, that Harvey Dent has the runaway trait and cannot be arrested. I think he's always had it as well. Every iteration of his model has had it. I just forgot. So yeah, no arrest and no card scored. So yes, that's a bit of a bummer for the GCPD detective, but he did stop Harvey from activating this turn. Okay, let's move on to the Two-Face crew. Tommy, gangster number 1, I believe, activated next, and with his Tommy gun, he didn't have audacity, remember, so with his Tommy gun he only had 1 shot at GCPD detective over here. He's not only is he out of the range of night, I think, that reduces his dice pool by 2, but also he's out of the natural range, I think, of the gun. So he only had the strength die left. The strength die being left in though is a great difference to long range shooting in this game, and yes, it did. The strength die came up for a 2 blood and 1 stun damage on the GCPD detective. So let's move on now. Damian Wayne up next, and he had grand designs of swooping down and taking out Sugar, Two-Face's sidekick, before she got a chance to activate, but it was not to be. Unfortunately, her teamwork gave her a lot more defense dice than Robin was expecting, and she managed to block most of his incoming attacks. Only one got through to 2 stun damage, but you know, it could possibly have happened and possibly have hamstrung the Two-Face crew's attempts for the end of the game. Right, so let's carry on. Wallace with the Winchester activated for Two-Face next, and he simply decided to put down a suspect marker. As he had no audacity left, he decided that was the end of their activation. So that's that. GCPD Cop 2 activated last for the Batman crew, and she simply moved into the corner and stays there, basically. No one's getting her, she's got too many victory points tied up to take any risks with, and so there's very little the Two-Face crew can do about her at this stage. Okay, Luigi activated next. He moved up into contact with the stairs there, and then used his Thompson to hose down that GCPD detective for 2 hits. After all said and done, don't forget the strength dice stays in. That high caliber roll is amazingly useful, and yes, that was sufficient to kill the GCPD detective. By doing so, the Two-Face crew played Time Bomb. A lot of text there, but I'm going to try and summarize it for you all. It activates once one of your models kills an enemy within 4 inches, which is just done. And what it means is I pick 2 suspects on the board. Can belong to either side, but we'll go with this one here and this one over here. We center the template that are over each one, and anyone under that template takes 1 blood damage. If anyone's damaged by that explosion, then the card scores for 2 points, and yes, it does. So it's kind of like a weird sort of like variation on Joker's cards, where you explode and you have to hope it damages your opponent, but if it damages you, you still score anyway. But so yeah, there we go. I'll remove those suspects, put the damage down. There's really not much, still to go in this turn, but in terms of other cards, the other coin card came back up in the deck again, so it was played by the Two-Face side after scoring that card, and so we're now flipped to the good side of the coin in terms of the rest of the game. So let's just finish up. I think there's only 1 model left to go, so let's do that. There she is. I'll just find out what she does. Yeah, it was just Sugar to go, and she just moved into the middle of the board. She used her activation, however, to play from the hand 2 faces of the coin again for the Two-Face crew. It's a good side card, as you remember. We just moved to the good side. Have an even number of friendly suspects in play. She did a quick count, and there are 4 at the moment. There's 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and there's 1 underneath, which you might just be able to see if I come around the other side. Sorry, there we are. There it is. So yeah, 4 suspects in play. So that'll be scoring at the end of the turn. Although this is the end of the turn, so it will be scoring when I do the recount phase in just a second. So yes, that she could have attacked Robin. She could have done a few things, but really nothing that would have scored points. So that's the important thing. Let's move to the recount phase and see who scored those last cards. Right, recount phase done. Didn't pick much up and didn't bother with any stun damage because it's the last turn. But in terms of scoring cards, the Two-Face side got scored their 2 faces of the coin card, as we just said just a second ago. Also from their hand came out, because they're on the good side now, the gamble again for 3 victory points at the end of the turn. 4th phase play, you see. You have 2 different friendly models inside the opponent's deployment zone and in contact with 2 different semi-mark elements, so the stairs and the bin or the plinth. I don't know what, I mean, they're all technically separate. I wouldn't count them all as one solid piece of scenery, but yes, I think that qualifies for this card. So 3 points for the Two-Face crew. In terms of the Batman crew, just picking them up, they got Die Hard off because the GCPD detective is still alive and kicking down here, and also her valuable commodities that she's holding have never even once been threatened with being taken off her, so 3 points for the Batman crew there as well. Okay, I've lost count of who's winning, so let's move to the final count and find out. Okay, I've got the Two-Face score pile in my hand, so let's give them a count up. I've got 2, 4, 6, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, and 20. Bit of a last minute rush from them there. It's a reasonable score, 20 points. Yeah, so on to the Batman crew. 2, 5, 8, 10, 11, 14, 17, 19, 22 at the last there with the valuable commodities. So 22 for Batman's crew and 20 for the Two-Face crew. Whew, that was really, really close as well, and I don't think there's any shame in the Two-Face crew for losing there, because they were up at one point the Batman crew was just scoring card after card after card, and they're heavy hitters too, some of those cards. There's a lot of 3-pointers in there. They would have run away with it even more if I'd accidentally arrested Two-Face and get them off the streets again. But yeah, I mean, at one point they were just there was just nothing in their hand that the Batman crew couldn't score there. Overall, the Two-Face crew I think did okay. They in most war games, then they'd probably be winning by now, because most war games actually let you score points for killing opponents and things, and their crew really metes out the punishment. They're a very shooty crew, and it's just dangerous being near them because they can still maneuver and shoot pretty well as well with their blood money tokens and things. Yeah, the number they did on Batman in the middle of the board in second, it was just horrific. And yeah, totally. I mean, I forget how vulnerable sometimes individual characters can be just because they've got bat armor and high defense basic. It's not the case necessarily. There's some of the weapons in this game are sickeningly powerful, and there's debuffs which are quite easy to put on sometimes, and this was one of those occasions. Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed this game. I really, really enjoyed this game, and I'm really, really looking forward to getting Two-Face back on the board against someone else, perhaps some of the little bit less reliable deck as well. Overall, the way his cards, his objective cards work is very interesting. I'm not sure I did it correctly by going for the good side first. Maybe I should have gone with the twisted side. Maybe he pays better to take the twisted side and try and score as much damage as possible, and then switch to the good side in order just to clear. Once you've broken your opponent's crew, then you can just start placing down suspect markers and clearing up that way with the good side deck. I don't know. It'll be something to try out. Once I get more familiar with it, I'm sure it'll become more effective as well. Either way, they're gorgeous models, and it's great to see them on the board. Please let me know of anything you noticed during the course of the game, anything you liked, disliked, or whatever. And yeah, please check in again, and I'll be putting more game reports up, I'm sure. Okay, take care and goodbye.